Hello friends, in this video lecture, we will see the classification of network on the basis of components role. On this basis, network, that is computer network, is categorized into three types, that is peer-to-peer network, server-based network, and client-based network. Let's see all these one by one. First one is peer-to-peer network. What is peer? So here, the meaning of peer is equal or of same status, that is peer. Here in this type of network we can say there are four computers or four nodes. These four nodes are having same functioning ability. It's all these computer A, B, C and D are equal. Here in this system, no computer is in charge of network operation, means nobody is boss here. Each computer here in this peer-to-peer network control its own information and functions either as a client or server. So it depends on the type of function needed at a time. Means A can be server, B can also be server, C can be server, D can be server. But as far as the ability of functioning is concerned, all these computers are of same status. And this type of peer-to-peer network is very popular as a home network, or it is used there in the small companies. In this peer-to-peer network, each user control their own security by adding password protection to each share they create. We can consider the example of Bluetooth, that if you want to share data between two mobile phone or two system with the help of Bluetooth. So in that case, the sharing of data is done here with the help of PIN. Means you have to share only PIN to share the information. So that is, this type of mechanism is known as, this type of protection is basically a simple protection or simple security, you can say, that is added at the time of sharing data. And in this peer-to-peer network, this all users maintain its own database locally. Means A's data is stored here at A's location. B's data is stored at B's location. C's data is stored there at C's location, and D's data is stored there at D's location. There is just a sharing of information by means of simple security. Another example is Napster. It was used to share music files amongst computer of same status or equal status. That is an example of peer-to-peer network. Then what are the advantages of this peer-to-peer network? Peer-to-peer network is actually inexpensive or cheap, you can say. In what context it is inexpensive? Because here minimum number of components are used. That's why the cost of these minimum components or components of same status are used. That's why the cost of this entire peer-to-peer network is less. Then because of minimum number of components, and of same status, so it is very easy to set up or very easy to install. Again, as we are going to use minimum number of components and the same components, in that case we can easily maintain. And because of these components of same status, we can easily detect the fault in the peer-to-peer network. There are advantages of peer-to-peer network. What are disadvantages? So minimum number of components are there, and the all components are of same status or of same configuration. That's why it is very limited in scope. And earlier we have seen that security was provided there by simple means. Okay, so that is the disadvantages. Then next network is server-based network. To understand the concept of server-based network, you have to understand the concept of client and server. Client and server, these are two different entities. The entity, let's say client is a such entity which request for resource to server. Server takes that request and process that request. So that is difference between server and the client. Another point is that server is of high configuration and client is of low configuration. That is another point of difference between the server and client. Here we are at server-based network. So there is a word server-based network means there is existence of both server and the client. It doesn't mean that there is only server. So it has both server and clients. So this server-based network consists of dedicated server and the dedicated clients. So here in this server-based network, server plays an important role. That's why it offers centralized control. Means that centralized control is done there at the server side. And because of that centralized control, it gives more secured operation. Means all types of securities are controlled there by server. So that dedicated server stores data, application, and other resources and provides access to these resources when requested by the clients. This is typical diagram of server-based network. So this server is basically used to stores data, application, and other resources and provide access to these resources when requested by clients. If resource R is requested by clients, so in that case, this server provides resource R to client C1, and with the help of this requested resource, there is processing at client side only, and after completion of processing, that resource is again given to server. Same is the case with rest of the models. Means whenever there is need of resources or need of any data or any applications at client side, clients request that particular resource, particular application or data to the server, and server gives the data in the acknowledgement, and after completion of data, after processing of data at the client side, that data, original data which is received from the server side, is again sent back to the server. So that is the concept of server based network. Means when here we discuss when client requests resources such as document, the server sends whole resource over the network to the clients where it is processed and later returned to the server for continued storage. Means whatever has been asked there from the server side is again returned to the server after completion of the processing at client side. Here in this type of server-based network, a dedicated server can also control the entire network security from one control location or it shares the control with other specially configured server. Means you can say that there is a centralized security. There is centralized security at the server side in this server-based network. Means server here plays an important role. Means server plays comparatively more important role than the clients. The next type of network is client-based network. So whenever there is a concept of client, then there must be concept of server. Means this client-based network doesn't mean only use of client. It again uses client and server. Here client plays an important role than the role of server. That is the client-based network. Here in this type of client-based network, there is a utilization of client's workstation power in processing some functions and remaining processing some functions locally, while remaining processing or whenever there is need of additional resources needed in processing, then this type of resources are received from server. Let's say this is directory services server, and this server is attached to number of clients. Okay, and along with these clients, there are some other clients. So these other clients are nothing but type of server, like mail server is there, application server, and file server. So if any of these clients, that is server, means this server acts as a client here, means this file server, which is actually client, wants to process some data. So part of data is processed here at this side. So that is basically a client side named as file server. Part of the data or part of the information is processed here at this side, and it requests only additional resources or additional part of data from this directory server side. Means this directory services server gives only additional data which is needed for the actual computation. Completion of actual processing, actual computation, rather than sending original resource to the client to be processed, it sends only result. Means instead of sending original resource here, it send only result to server side. That is the concept of client-based network. Here in this client-based network, there is distribution of security. Means each client is having its own security. So this type of arrangement may include application servers where entire computer programs are shared from server, and another arrangement is communication server where email and other communication media are operated. So these are two different type of arrangements associated with the client-based network. If you compare that client-based server with server-based network, so it has centralized security, and here the security is actually decentralized. Distributed security is there. Means each client or each node having its own security, and the security of entire network is managed or controlled by the server only. So that is the difference between server based network and the client based network. Thank you.